We are going to paint a chipmunk with a front row seat to a sunset in watercolor. The colors in my palette are Daniel Smith's Yellow Ochre, Hansa Yellow, Ultramarine Blue, Burnt Sienna Light, Neutral Tint, and Payroll Red. The painting time took 5 hours spread over 3 days. The first layer is wet, the paper around the subject with clean, clear water. To dampen the paper, we want a very peaceful sky, and the colors we paint the sky are going to be of a watery consistency. Ultramarine blue mixed with a tiny dash of payroll red to make a purple tint in the lower bottom corner. A very intense sun is made of hansa yellow and a dash of payroll red for an orange glow. These colors are thicker and more intense. We are going to paint the left bottom around the sun in a very light hansa yellow to give a yellow glow to the sunset sky. The branch is painted with a very light wash of neutral tint, painting left to right in the direction. Let that dry. The first layer of the chipmunk is painted with a wet consistency of yellow ochre over the head, legs area, and into the tail. Then with a mix of yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, and a hint of payroll red to make a light brown watery mixture for the top of the tail, the dark stripes on the back of the chipmunk. Paint the eye with a watery mixture of ultramarine blue. That will be the reflection of the sky. Then I added a second layer of neutral tint to the branch, loose strokes to give the branch some texture. The eye of the chipmunk is a very thick layer of neutral tint, leaving the sky reflections in place. And then apply a very light, watery gray mixture to the shadow of the inner ear and the edge of the ears. I mix a fleshy color of hansa yellow and payroll red, very watery for the inner ear, nose, and feet. For the facial features, mix a watery consistency of burnt sienna light with a hint of ultramarine blue so that the color is not as bright, and apply behind the eye in an upwards direction towards the ear to give form to the side of the head. Use the same color above the eye in a wave-like stroke to form the brow, and use the same color along the bridge of the nose. I keep the first layers watery to build up the fur and give form to the chipmunk. And of course, that is the process of watercolor, to build from light to dark. Well, however, with the intense color of the sun and the chipmunk eye, we need to build the colors of the picture to that intensity. And we have set the goal of where to take the colors to. The front leg is painted with a layer of neutral tint. And as each layer is added to the leg, the intensity of the color will become darker and will give the leg form. Same can be said for the tail and all areas that are in shadow. A thicker layer of yellow ochre mixed with a hint of ultramarine blue is added to the leg and the body of the chipmunk. The yellow by itself is too bright. and the blue dulls the yellow down and gives a goldy green tint to the color that I can see in the fur of the reference photograph. I add a hint of burnt sienna light to the mix to give a red-orange tinge to the darker areas on either side of the white stripe and to the tail. I must apologize for the zoom on the painting and missing the first layer of the tail. At the time, I was in the zone of painting, but eventually I catch on and zoom out, so you will be able to see the progress there too. Adding a second layer with less water of the fleshy mix to the ear, feet, and nose. To differentiate between the paws, I add ultramarine blue to the flesh color to create a purple color and paint the paw in the background. I pick up some neutral tint neat and add it to the eye for another layer, and a less intense neutral tint for inside the ear. A third layer of yellow ochre has been added to the arm, the hind, and the tail. A mix of yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, and neutral tint has been added to the tail on either side of the white stripe. The body of the chipmunk is starting to take shape and becoming more dimensional and is raising off the flat paper. As the character of the chipmunk emerges, each layer is less watery. The focus is on the reference photo and back to the painting, building the layers slowly, letting the layers dry in between, always painting in the direction of the fur. This is what gives the creature form and realism. A third layer is painted to the branch under the chipmunk for the shadow that is cast on the branch. The strokes are loose and applied unevenly on purpose to give the branch texture and a realistic look and give the branch a three-dimensional pop. The edge of the tail is darkened once again and is painted in the direction of fur, scattered, uneven strokes to suggest the furry, bushy tail. A very dark mixture is used to paint the base of the tail against the body. The eye is darkened with neat neutral tint, giving the eye shape, and the reflection of the sky remains. Darker tones of all the original colors are applied to the chipmunk body and continue to be built up gradually. It is time to get into the flow and not rush and let each area dry before adding another layer. For the branch, I add another layer of neutral tint and just feel it could be a lot darker. So I dip my brush straight into ultramarine blue and add it directly onto the branch, and then add another layer of neutral tint on top and let the paint mix right on the paper. It feels like we're getting a more intense shadow. Try it, you might like it. I let the painting dry completely before I wet the background one more time with clean, clear water. I want to make the sunset richer in color, yet remain soft and mellow. The colors used are hansa yellow and payroll red to get a nice soft orange hue. And I add that to the left side above the branch behind the chipmunk and add a sliver of this color where the tail meets the back. We let that dry and deepen the shadows between the toes on the log, the fur on the body, face and tail, all the creases and the areas in shadow. The branch is detailed with neat neutral tint to add to the texture. The sunset has dried and I just want to re-wet it because I have some hard edges and add a little bit of watered down handsy yellow just to enrich the sunset one more time. I wet the blue area too just to soften all the edges. It's time now to remove the tape from the edges and reveal the painting.